Today on Locked On Red Wings, our way too late New Year's resolutions.
You're Locked On Red Wings, your daily podcast on the Detroit Red Wings. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Red Wings podcast. We are your hosts, Brian Fisher and Scotty Bentley. Scotty is over at Locked On Tigers, as well as a freelance journalist for the Detroit News, while I am a color commentator for Oakland University ACHA D1 men's hockey. And man, we're doing New Year's resolutions today, even though it is 10 days into the new year already. But part of the reason why we didn't do it earlier is Red Wings have been playing basically every other day. They hired a new head coach, and they've been red hot. So we've kind of had higher priorities up until this point. But with 2 off days in a row, we figured we'd slow down and have a little bit more fun, talk about our Red Wings resolutions of this year.
Good alliteration there. Red Wings resolutions. I guess the Wings kind of throws that off, but still good.
It sounds close,
Crispy.
So that's where we're going to go today. And Scotty, without further ado, why don't you just lead us right off? What is your first Red Wings resolution?
Yeah, this is so I do this every year over at Locked On Tigers. I do a resolution show, but it is much different because on the Tigers show, the new year hits in the middle of the offseason. So it's like, oh, what's your New Year's resolution? Well, you're basically just talking about what you want to see from the Tigers this upcoming season. Baseball is the only sport where the entire preseason, regular season, postseason are all in the same calendar year, right? So like it's a lot different of a vibe when we're doing it here. We're in the middle of a season, and then we're talking about an off season and then the first half of another season. So it's a little bit different, but I have 4 like definitive things, and not all of them are super long conversations, but I have 4 things that I really want to see from the team. And it's, I don't know, it kind of feels like more of a wish list maybe than a resolution, but this is kind of what I'm like hoping to see out of the team in the calendar year. The first, we don't have to spend too much time on because we talk about it literally all the time, but I want to continue to see improvements on 5-on-5 play. It's been such a massive talking point for us on this show, for the Wings, just like fan base wide. This team needs to get substantially still better at even strength. Obviously, the special teams has played into their hands very nicely lately, and Lord knows we want good special teams too, right? But like you are objectively at even strength, assuming it's not like a crazy chaotic game, more than you're not throughout the course of 3 periods. So they need to continue to take strides in that direction, and if that means like McClellan brings in a system that's going to help with that. If that means that in the offseason they get players that are just more catered to that style, and we see that improvement maybe in the fall rather than the rest of this year, apples to oranges, I guess, at that point. But like, I think that 5-on-5 play specifically will continue to be something we harp on and should be something that the fan base continues to keep an eye out for.
Yeah, and we talked about this yesterday on how this team is going to maintain success, and one of those things we brought up was that their 5-on-5 play has to continue to take steps forward. We had mentioned that in the 6 games that McClellan had played, in a 6-game sample size, the Red Wings are 6 spots higher than they were in the Lalonde tenure. So in 6 games, they're ranked 22nd in shot attempt share and expected goals for, where with the 30-plus games with Lalonde, they sat at, 30th, I said yesterday? Yeah. So that's 8 spots higher, actually, if you know how to do subtraction, which I clearly do not. So
dude, you have been struggling with math lately. I'm not going to lie to you.
You want to know one more secret, too?
I would love to hear a secret, yeah.
So on 2 days ago, I said the Red Wings were 10 for 18 on the power play, which gives them like a 62 percentage. They're actually 10 for 19. But yesterday, even though I corrected myself and said 10 for 19, I didn't redo the math and had been saying like 62% regardless. They're actually like in the mid 50 percentile with the power play percentage. So it's been rough. There's a reason why I majored in communication in that.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
But regardless,
trust me, I'm right there with you. Yeah,
that power play is still insane. But yeah, I agree that the even strength 5-on-5 play has got to continue to get better. You're just in the 6 games with McClellan, you're at like 49.8 You're almost to that 50% marker you want as a baseline to be considered a wild card contender. You need to have over 50% of the shot attempts in any given game, because that's just what playoff contenders do. Playoff contenders sit at 50% or above. Obviously, there are outliers and exceptions, but on average, that's where they live. Your Stanley Cup contenders usually live around 52, 53%. So it can tell you how much that percentage can change. Carolina Hurricanes live at 59%, which is absolutely absurd to be able to hold that good of a 5-on-5 Corsi 4 percentage for half a season. But yeah, basically, I agree with you, which happens very frequently on this show. My first one is actually going to go in a little bit of a different direction. Somebody we've talked about a lot on this podcast as somebody who has not gotten going and still has not got going, even with the new head coach, and that is Vladimir Tarasenko. So far this season, Scotty, he only has 14 points, 4 goals in 39 games. This is somebody that we've brought on, the Red Wings brought on rather, to be a 20, 25 goal scorer. We understand what he is at this. He hit 40 goals once in his career, perennial 35 goal scorer in his prime. We need him to get to 20, 25. I don't think he's hitting that this year. He'd have to have an insane second half of the season, be literally half goal a game. But I think that him bouncing back in the second half of the season and having a half point per game second half of the year would be huge for this Red Wings team to not just like continue to be in the playoff picture, but actually make a genuine push into the wild card. Yeah. Because your top 6 right now is playing phenomenal. I think a little bit of that is unsustainable. Like, they're going to go through slumps. Larkin just came out of one. Some players are due to go into slumps eventually. But Vladimir Tarasenko coming out of this half season long slump at this point, just considering a down year, would be crucial. And a half point per game, like, they've played 40 games, right, Scotty? So they only have 42 games left to play. I'm asking him to get 21 points in the last 41 games. That would only give him 35 on the season. So that's still not like a great year at the end of the year, but if you just want to turn it around and end the year on a high note, you need Vladimir Tarasenko to be a big part of your depth scoring. That's what you signed him to be.
Absolutely. And you know, we've had a lot of conversations about him already this season too, but you know, if you were talking about X factors the rest of the way, I think that most people would agree he is going to be one. Like, if you really do want this ship kind of turned around, you're going to need to get him going. And, you know, obviously, even if he does turn it around, the season numbers probably are beyond savable. But when we do our post or end of season, you know, review and talk about all these players in the years they had, you know, we will be able to look at first half, second half splits, or, you know, splits after January or whatever it might be. And if it's a good pace from then on out, then that will give people at least a little bit more optimism going forward.
Mm-hmm. What's next for you, buddy?
So I had a few different directions I kind of want to head here. I'm going to go with another. I say another. My first one didn't have anything to do with this. I'm going to go with an addition. Okay, I'm going to go with and not like specific like player, like I need to see this player in a winged wheel necessarily, but I'm going to fast forward all the way to the offseason and to the summer here. I need to see legitimate additions to the blue line. I am so tired of coming on this show every summer and you and I going, well, they could use some blue line help, and then nothing ever happening. And or like they add someone who's pushing 40 and clearly like past their prime and getting overpaid. Like that's the only additions outside of just internal, you know, promotions that we've seen on the blue line in quite some time now. And I think that it is pretty much impossible to look at what this team has done this year, look at what the blue line has looked like for the last 2 or 3 years, really, and go, okay, what can the Wings do to get kind of over the hump and make themselves a legitimate contender? I legitimately think like 1A, like the number one thing going forward that they should be focused on this summer should be getting legitimate, good blue line help. And obviously we focus on the right side so much, but like they kind of need it top to bottom unless your name's Edvinsson or Seider. So that's something that I am going to get really, really loud about as we get closer to the offseason.
I completely agree with you. The blue line as it stands cannot stay like this. I mean, Seider, Edvinsson, I mean, Sherratt give him credit. He's been phenomenal since he and Sider have been reunited under
Yep.
McClellan as head coach. His underlying numbers are actually fantastic. But, I mean, so you have your number one defenseman, your number two in Edvinsson, and a guy who can play top 4 minutes in Sherratt. Okay, but that's 3 defensemen. You have a whole other blue line that you need to really figure out what you're going to do with if you want this team to be legitimate. And right now, it's just a big question mark. So, yeah, I 100% agree with you. That is a great resolution to have. I, of course, have another resolution as well that goes back to special teams. And just by hearing me say that, I'm sure everyone knows exactly where I'm going to go. But I'm going to wait and get to that at the start of segment 2. So stay tuned to Locked On Red Wings. From big upsets to game-winning drives, the NFL playoffs are better with FanDuel. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. The FanDuel app gives you everything you need for live bets, same-game parlays, and so much more. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Segment 2. What? I said it normal.
No, I know. It's disappointing. I enjoy now, and I expect a little me time to go NFL, but you said it. That is, I'm not kidding, the most normal you've ever said it in the history of this show. I'm serious. There is nothing I can do with that. You just said NFL. Like that was
good.
That was super normal, and I'm really sad about it.
Good. That means we can move on. Segment 2, Locked On Red Wings podcast. My next resolution, of course, is the penalty kill. Another thing that has taken steps forward in the 6 games we've seen with Todd McClellan, I believe, and I did the math, so of course it's probably wrong, but I did the math. And right now it's sitting at about 72% in the 6 games McClellan has played. That's obviously an increase on the, 69% it was with Derek Lalonde. If you extrapolate that 72% across an entire season, right, they would have them sitting at 28th instead of 31st. So still, what you want to get better, getting towards middle of the pack, but you're taking a step forward. If this team wants to be a real contender and maintain success going into the end of the season and compete for a wild card, I'd say you want to get that into a little bit the higher 20s, which means you want to get a penalty kill by the end of the season, flirting, I would say at minimum around 76%, where the Ottawa Senators are sitting at 24, because again, you have half the season already. It's going to drag that number down, but you want to get that closer to the top of the league by the end of the season, just so you can have a competitive penalty kill and not give up a goal every single time you go down a man. Penalty kill, I think, for me, is a huge New Year's resolution that they are going to have to improve if they want to be legitimate. And what's that word we kept saying yesterday, Scotty? Sustainable. And be a sustainable hockey team.
That's what we're looking for right here, baby. Sustainability. I agree with you, obviously. I think that this year is just such a weird year when it comes to the penalty kill, because it wasn't this bad last year. It's the same coach and it's most of the same players. And it's just been a catastrophe. Now, it's been better lately, but I think that, that kind of goes without saying. I completely agree with you. They're going to need to take huge steps in the right direction the rest of this year to kind of right the ship. But even kind of as an off-season focus, right? Like maybe they can go after some more penalty kill kind of specialist type of players. So we'll see what happens there.
Caught myself. Right you are, Scotty.
That was
what
a pump
do you have next?
Right there. All right. That was... just awful. I can't believe you just did that. I hope you're all watching on YouTube. Brian just did the worst pump fake I think I've ever seen in my entire life. Brian was definitely the kid at recess in middle school that would shoot, he'd shoot the basket and it would just crash the backboard and not even hit the rim or anything.
If I hit the backboard, half the time it would soar over the backboard. You're absolutely right on that, Scotty.
Just no touch. Just absolutely line driving it at the net.
Yes, that's so true.
I think, so my last two are kind of a little bit lighter and a little bit more fun. I really want to see Sebastian Cossa get legitimate playing time at some time this calendar year. So I understand that the rest of this season is probably going to be an uphill battle, assuming health for everyone. But I would love to have a conversation this summer about, you know what, like how serious should the Wings be in the goalie market over the summer, just because, like, hey, if you don't bring in a goalie, then that opens the door for Sebastian Cossa for a prolonged period of time. So I think that I would love for him to be playing well enough where that is at least a legitimate conversation. If not, he's just, a part of the team this fall.
Yeah, I think the calendar year part is the huge
Right.
What's the word I'm looking for, like add on to that comment, because this season I don't think it's happening
For
unless
sure.
they really
Agreed.
fall out of the playoff picture, which of course could happen. But I think next year with contracts being up, right, Jack Campbell, Ville Husso, Alex Lyon, like there's a clear window, and especially with how well he's playing around Rapids, that next year he could be part of this goalie room, and we both believe he should be.
Yep.
So I definitely agree with you on that one. That's a great one. I think that for me, for this season, if I'm going to stay here, I think it'd be for Marco Kasper is getting a little bit of a goal scoring touch going.
Sure.
And I think that plays well, actually beautifully into the previews. Not that we're jumping right to that now, but he's been getting a look on in practice at the top line. We know he obviously finished the game against the Ottawa Senators on the top line. I think that line could be fantastic to jumpstarting his offense. We've seen how well he's been playing on every other facet of the game. Like he's driving the lines that he's on. His puck retrieval, he plays with an edge. His two-way game is phenomenal. Like every single game he plays, it feels like his line, again, in limited and sheltered minutes because he's a rookie, has been analytically fantastic. And a lot of that is because of Marco Kasper. So I'm really excited to see if on the top line they can get a little bit of that offense jump-started. And that's what one of my resolutions is not that, he's a bust if he doesn't score 15 goals the rest of the way, but he only has 2 so far, and we've seen him have a lot of opportunities to score more than that. And so I'd like to see him start contributing on the score sheet, not just on those underlying metrics. I want to start seeing Marco Kasper assists, a couple Marco Kasper goals to unlock a little bit of that offense we both believe is there.
100%. I'm glad you had him on your list because I was trying to find a way to word, a resolution for him and couldn't really come to anything concrete. So I'm glad that he was on yours. I am right there lockstep with you. He is a guy that when you talk about the future and the direction of the Wings, I think he is such an important piece. Like having a middle six guy that hopefully can produce and be really solid at both ends of the ice and can be a valuable member of special teams if needed, right? Like there is such a role for him, especially up the middle too. Like there's just so many factors that play into his value on this team. And I think it would go such a long way for the outlook of Marco Kasper going into the fall if he was to end this season on a little bit of a hot streak, for sure.
Right. Absolutely. Scotty, do you have...
I have one more.
Another one? Okay, let's go with that.
Yeah, so my last one is another one that is calendar year, because I don't think it's going to happen this season. And if it does, not for a long enough period of time where it's going to really matter. I want to see legitimate playing time for Danielson at some time in 2025. And, we were very excited about Marco Kasper. There's Edvinsson. But like when you talk about forwards in the organization, I don't think over the last calendar year that there has been a forward that has more hype in the Wings farm system right now. It certainly was him or Kasper, but I think most people, and we talked about it a lot, like Kasper was always going to be a little bit more of, that two-way player, can certainly provide offense, but it is going to be kind of that up the middle, defensively reliable forward that we want to inject into this lineup. And Danielson, he's obviously working on his defense and whatnot. We hope that he can be that too. But I think the offensive upside is just is so high with him that I would love before we turn the year over into 2026, whether that's the end of this year or in the fall, to see legitimate playing time, legitimate minutes at some capacity for Nate Danielson.
Yeah, I think that's a really good one too, because that's a guy that, was riding a hot streak a little bit in Grand Rapids, has since cooled off some, but this, like, you have high expectations for as a prospect because this team really does not have a legitimate 2C right now. Like,
Right.
Andrew Kopp's that 2C right now because he has decent chemistry with Kane and DeBrincat. Comfer was 2C for a little bit. You hope Casper maybe, but it's just so many question marks right now. You don't have an answer, and you would hope Danielson can be that answer. I'm gonna squeeze one more in here, Scotty, and then we'll
Please
head
do.
to break. And it's gonna be Albert Johansson. I think for him, my New Year's resolution is cement yourself as a third pairing defenseman. No
Love it.
more of this sitting on the bench. Like a lot of it's just he's a rookie, but he's also not like a young rookie either, right? This is a guy who's on the team because he can't be sent down to Grand Rapids. He's 23 years old. He's the same age as Jonathan Berggren. Like, this is a guy who I want, and I had a couple years ago I was really high on. I want to cement himself as a third pair defenseman, and he's been playing pretty amicably with Simon Edvinsson on the second pair the last couple games and getting a lot more minutes than he was probably prepared for. But his chemistry with Edvinsson has looked pretty solid. They've looked okay together. They've won those games, which is a huge thing too. So if by the end of the season he can cement himself as an everyday NHL defenseman, then I think that'll go a long ways for this team to solving some of their defensive woes, because you're going to need third pair defensemen. And if you can have a guy under team control be that answer, you don't got to worry about going out into free agency and signing another Oli Mata. Right. You'll have a guy on your roster who can play both sides, left and right, who can fit in any way you need him to.
Absolutely, man. I completely agree with you yet again on this one too. It is like you have to realize kind of like how much of a development win it would be for this organization if Aljo became, again, even if it's third pair, just like an everydayer for this team over the course of 82. Like that is a massive win. It's massive for cap. It's massive for just like lineup card over the course of 82 games. And it frees up so many other possibilities for an offseason and what the Wings need to address. That would be, again, I know I'm making it sound like it would be like the biggest thing ever for a third pair guy, but like it truly would be a very, very big deal if he was able to just be a solid, plug and play. He's going to be on the third pair every night for 82 games. That would be a really big win for this organization. Absolutely.
For sure. We're going to head to another quick break, and when we return, we'll preview the games against the Blackhawks and the Seattle Kraken. Stay tuned to Locked On Red Wings. We all love going to live events, whether it's sports, music, comedy, concerts, whatever is your thing. Me, personally, I love going to hockey games. Who would have thought the host of Locked On Red Wings would like to go to hockey games? And recently, I used Game Time to buy Stadium Series tickets. I think this is like your third day in a row hearing me talk about this, but I am pumped to go. I wish they would reveal the jerseys too, but I digress. Stadium Series is on March 1st. I'm going down to Columbus to check it out, and I got those tickets through Game Time. I used Game Time picks. It made it way easier to get my tickets to this event as well. It filters out the fluff and showed me an incredible deal, and it really did. Showed me a deal that was in what they considered 1% of value. And looking at the seats that were around it, I tend to agree because it saved me about half based on what the tickets around me were charging. So I used those Game Time picks. I also used the all-in pricing toggle too, and that made it so that I didn't get any surprise fees after I had committed and went to checkout. I knew exactly what I was paying for when I clicked on the ticket. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app and create an account. Use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. That's what I did. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time. Segment 3, Locked On Red Wings podcast. All right, Scotty. We're going to preview two games, one against the Chicago Blackhawks. That's tonight by the time people are listening to this. And then against the Seattle Kraken on Sunday. First and foremost, Scotty, the Chicago Blackhawks at home at LCA. What should the Red Wings expect out of this one?
A win. I don't really know how else to put it, man. This Hawks team is not good. They are toward the bottom of the league in just about everything. The only thing they're weirdly good at, and you pointed this out before we hit record, is their special teams isn't bad. They actually have a top 5 penalty kill in the NHL and a middle of the pack, like top half of the league power play. So both special teams have been good, but everything else is just awful. I mean, this team is bottom 2 in the league in goals scored, bottom 5 or 6 in goals against. I mean, face off percentage, second to last there. The goalie situation hasn't been good. They allow shots, they give up goals, they don't score much. Like that's not a recipe for success, and that's kind of just where they're at right now. Bedard went through a little bit of a cold streak there. I think they're hoping for him to heat up. But as you mentioned on the show earlier this week, they also have surrounded him with nothing. So that's a lot of weight on his shoulders. And I mean, you're playing Bird again. He leads the team in goals. That's kind of good for him. But like this is man. Like Pat Maroon in 2025. Like I don't know what else. That's the state of this team, man. Like that's where we're at. So yeah, what should they expect? At home, you should expect a win. You should beat this hockey team.
Yeah, Connor Bedard, to your point, has been heating up a lot lately since they replaced their head coach with an interim head coach. He has been much better. He's got 37 points in 41 games. That leads the team. As you said, Tyler Bertuzzi with 14 goals leads the team in goals. He's about half point per game. They don't have much offense. The offense they do have mostly comes from Connor Bedard and Tyler Bertuzzi because he's playing on Bedard's line. Goaltending isn't so strong either. Their leading goaltender, of course, is Peter Mrazek, but he's got an .897 save percentage. That is below league average. Arvid Soderblom, the brother of Elmer Soderblom, Red Wings prospect, is their backup. He's got a .905. He's been decent. I don't know which goalie we're going to see yet, but like you said, shot share percentage, they're 31st. That's the same with shot attempt share, I should say. That's the same with expected goals for percentage as well. They're 31st in that category as well. This team, along with the Seattle Kraken, we're going to talk about the next. The reason why they're at the bottom of those standings is the amount of shot attempts they give up, right? The Seattle Kraken have the third worst shot attempts or third most shot attempts against at 5-on-5, where the Blackhawks sit fifth. So they just give up a lot of offense, and that's part of the reason why their goaltending save percentage is so low. Like, you think the Red Wings are, bad defensively? They're 12th worst at shot attempts. Like, the bottom of the barrel teams are far worse, and it's the Chicago Blackhawks team that is dead last in the standings. So I don't think it is naive to say that the Detroit Red Wings should beat this team, right? You're a team that is hot right now at home on a Friday night, so packed LCA, playing the worst team in the league. You should win this game, and if you don't, that's a disappointment. Now, losses to these types of teams do happen, but you should beat that. This is a team you expect to beat. That being said, they are going to be shorthanded too. Like, Petry was put on the IR, retroactive. That was mostly a paper move, even though McClellan did say today he's still a little bit away.
Because it is retroactive, yeah.
It is retroactive, mostly because they needed to recall Husso, who is day-to-day with an injury. So Ville Husso back with the team, so I would expect Talbot to probably start.
Yeah, Lions day-to-day. They recalled Husso.
Did I say that backwards?
Yes. You just said Husso was day-to-day. And
yes.
So,
Thank you. Yeah, Lions day-to-day, so they recalled Husso.
Yeah.
Husso will probably back up Talbot. And then they got Seattle on Sunday, who's not that much better. What, third to last in the league? Fourth to last in the league.
Yeah. Seattle, I mean, I don't think anyone is in the depths that Chicago is necessarily. And there's a little bit of better, like closer to middle of the pack numbers for Seattle, but nothing that's really great either. They're bottom 10 in the league in goals scored. They are bottom 12 in goals against. Like that makes them more of around, middle of the pack, maybe getting a little bit unlucky there. But like special teams, bottom 10 power play, penalty kill, middle of the road, save percentage, middle of the road. Like this is kind of just, I don't know, statistically, as you mentioned, they give up a lot of shots at 5-on-5, and that has kind of been the downfall of them. Everything else is kind of just below average to bad. They're not necessarily awful, but this is still, again, a team that you should beat and that you'll be favored going into.
Yeah, and they've been, even though they are 4 games beneath a 500 points percentage, they've been kind of saved like the Red Wings were before they fired Lalonde by good goaltending. Joey Dackard has a .912 save percentage that puts him amongst the top in the NHL. Kind of like how Cam Talbot and Alex Lyon were bailing the Red Wings out.
Yeah.
And that's part of the reason why they're not even lower, because they're not getting a ton of offense either. Jared McCann's got 29 points in 41 games. Jaden Schwartz is 26 and 41. They got a lot of players kind of flirting in the mid to high 20s, but no one over 30 points. So it's not a lot of offense. I mean, the offense they do get is pretty well spread out, but it's not a lot of high-powered offense, just kind of solid goaltending, keeping them from completely falling off. But they are fourth worst in the league, 37 points, where it's the Blackhawks at 30. So again, that's another winnable game. We talked about it yesterday. These next 3 games, you play very beatable teams. Chicago, Seattle, and then San Jose, who's the second worst team in the league, in the middle of the week. So you just, we talked about it. You got to win 2 of the next 3.
Yeah.
In any order.
Right. If you split this weekend, then you have to beat San Jose. I say have to. That's probably too dramatic. But like you know what I mean. Like if you go out there and you split the weekend, you whatever it is, you come out flat against Chicago, or you beat Chicago and then don't take Seattle as seriously, whatever it may be. Then you really should bounce back and beat San Jose and still take 2 of 3 from this stretch. And I think that if you do that, then that would go a long way. The only thing that would make losing to Chicago even remotely, I don't know, acceptable, I don't even know if that's the word, is if you go out and win the next 2. So I really do think that you should at least be aiming. Well, you should aim to win both, and we will take, I guess, a split if that comes with a win against San Jose. But I really do think the expectation, the bar in the locker room should be, let's go take 2 this weekend. Like, you're pretty comfortably the better team in both of these games.
Yeah. The only thing that worries me is them getting a little full of themselves, right? Like,
Sure.
Hopefully these guys like keep in mind where they come from, what they're working. That's crazy. That's crazy, Scotty. Crazy shot to take at me at 6:30 on a Thursday. All right. Yeah, I mean, it's Chicago. Don't take them lightly just because they're the worst placed team in the league and you're hot.
Right.
Like, go out there, take care of business, play your game. So yeah, perfect opportunity to really grow your game too.
Agreed.
All right. Any final thoughts, dude?
We ball, baby.
We do ball. We'll be back with 2 game recaps on Sunday of the Blackhawks and Kraken game. So stay tuned for that.
We'll be back Monday, yeah, but we'll be recording on Sunday. Yeah,
true. Very true. We'll be recording on Sunday. Same time, we'll be back. Same time, same place. It's your team every day.
Every day.